On va commencer. Hein. Merci beaucoup d'être tous avec nous pour cette seconde conférence là, du petit cycle que nous avons initié. C'est avec un très très grand plaisir que l'on va accueillir Katie Stanton qui va vous donner un peu des éléments sur son parcours. Et puis voilà quoi. Isabelle, je te donne la parole.
Oui, donc je sais pas, certains d'entre nous connaissons déjà depuis la semaine dernière. Donc là, on fait la deuxième session des speakers où j'essaye d'amener surtout des femmes, mais vous verrez aussi des hommes quand même, pour vous parler un peu d'eux-mêmes. Donc c'est moins de leur société qu'aussi de leur parcours et de comment ils voient, de ce qu'ils voient, de l'importance de ce que vous faites ici. Et comme je le disais la dernière fois, et je le réitère et je le dis à ceux qui l'avaient pas entendu. On essaie vraiment de vous créer un network de personnes que vous pouvez contacter, qui seront aussi potentiellement des mentors pour vous, des exemples à suivre, des personnes à qui poser des questions. Donc surtout, n'hésitez pas. Je pense que vous avez les coordonnées au moins par Fabienne, sinon par nous directement. Et donc sur ce, je vous présente Katie, qui n'a pas énormément de temps, mais qui nous accorde 1 heure parce que vous êtes très très particulier et special. Donc, elle prend le temps pour vous rencontrer et pour vous parler d'elle. Ça fait 4 ans qu'elle est chez Yahoo. Pardon, ça fait 4 ans qu'elle est chez Twitter. Elle était préalablement chez Yahoo et Google, toujours plutôt en bizdev, mais elle vous en parlera mieux que moi. Et aujourd'hui, basée à Paris, elle est un peu reine du monde. Et elle vous expliquera ça elle-même. Katie ?
Merci.
Merci. Bonjour à tous. Je suis un peu timide quand je parle en français, donc je vais parler en anglais. Ça va? Okay. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really honored. I'm a huge fan of Xavier Niel, and I love this school, and I love what it represents, and I love that he's taking such a big bet on all of you. So I'm truly, truly humbled to be here. As Isabel had mentioned, I'm Katie Stanton. You can follow me on Twitter at KDS. It's a very cheap way to build followers. But I've been at Twitter for a while, and my role has been to help build Twitter's audience outside the U.S., and it's been one of the best jobs that I've ever had in my life. So I'm very lucky to both have a great job and to be based here in Paris. So it's great to be here. And you might wonder, well, what does that mean in terms of building an audience around the world? Most of what my team does is work with partners in many of our strategic markets like France and make sure that we have the best, most unique, compelling content. So that's working across politics and music and sports. And I'm sure all of you watched one of these games last night, right? Right, with the Équipe de France, and they won. They had a great game, and it was actually a great moment for us because we actually saw about 4 million tweets just during the game of people cheering on their favorite team, cheering on when there's a goal, cheering against Honduras when there are a couple of tough calls. And so we do a lot of work trying to make sure we have this great content so people can have a very rich conversation about what's going on online and to be part of what's going on. And I joined Twitter 4 years ago for 3 reasons. The first was I love the product, and I thought I want to work somewhere where I really love the product and I can be part of its formation and its future. I also joined Twitter because I love the founders, Jack Dorsey and Ev Williams and Biz Stone. They're tremendous entrepreneurs, and they have wonderful vision, and they're really, really smart. But the other difference is that they're just really kind. They're really good people, and I trusted them. And then the third reason I joined Twitter was I have 3 kids, and if I'm going to be away from my kids, I wanted something that I could feel really proud of. And so working at Twitter was something I felt could check 3 different boxes: great product, awesome people, and something that I could feel really proud of. And I've had some really crappy jobs too, though. My first job out of college was working out of Roy Rogers. I don't know if any of you have ever heard of Roy Rogers, but it makes McDonald's look like a 5-star hotel. It was really, really bad. And I was about 14, 15 at the time, and I was at the checkout counter. And as people come and order chicken nuggets, and there are a bunch of not very nice people in the back who would throw chicken nuggets at my head. And I remember one day when my dad came in to watch me, come say hi with my brother. It was really mortifying, if you can imagine being 14 and wearing some terrible uniform, and you're dad shows up and your brother and someone throws a nugget at your head and you're like, okay, this isn't going to work at all. And so, and we've all had these bad jobs. And the good thing about having bad jobs is that it makes you realize how important it is to have a great job and appreciate it. And so starting with a really bad job and having this job that I love right now has really taught me 2 different life lessons that I wanted to talk to you all about. The first is how important it is to find something that you love. And that sounds a little bit trite. Everyone will say, do what you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's totally, totally true. But the difference is you have to find what you love, but then you have to get really, really good at it. I mean, you might love to sing, but you stink at it. So that's not going to be fun after a while. So you have to find what you love and really, really get good at it. The second thing, as part of this life journey and as you're finding your careers, at least for me as an American, the best thing that I did in my early career was go abroad. In fact, my first overseas experience was here in Paris. I studied abroad in Paris for a semester. You wouldn't be able to tell because my French never really improved. But it really was an eye-opening opportunity for me. And at that time, and I'm kind of embarrassed, it was so long ago, it was when the Berlin Wall fell down. And I remember, we didn't have the internet. I remember hearing on the radio that something was happening in Berlin. And I thought, well, I have to go and see what it is. And I was so lucky to have been able to see the wall come down. And it was just, again, so eye-opening because I had never really traveled so much outside the U.S. And being able to travel so easily from Paris to Berlin to London to Milan, whatever it is, this is such a connected and vibrant city. And something I hope you all take a lot of advantage of. The other thing when I came back to the U.S. and realized, wow, there's this whole big world out there, I ended up going abroad again for my senior year in college, and I went to Jerusalem, which was totally different from Paris, a very different city, a very different climate, very different environment, but it's still really eye-opening and just furthered my interest of something that was a global role. And so I can't stress enough how important international experience is, and I'm probably preaching to the choir here. You all come from a variety of different backgrounds, and you're in one of the biggest and brightest and most interesting cities in the world. But I really want to keep encouraging you to kind of break out and challenge yourselves to go to places that may scare you, places that may challenge you, places that you'll have to, start again and learn another language. You obviously are way ahead of me at your age, where you already speak English and French and probably other languages too. But keep learning those other languages because they're tools to understand all these other cultures too, and they'll help you in your career. And you guys are also lucky because you're starting with one of the most important tools ever, programming. I can't tell you how many jobs there are all over the world, but especially in California, so I have to make a plug for my home state. But so many opportunities for you all to have successful careers. And I'm really happy to see some women in the audience. There aren't enough women programmers, so bring your friends, encourage your sisters, encourage your cousins, because we definitely need more diversity in computer science and in technology. Once you guys leave 42, you're all at various stages, but I would also encourage you to, keep doing things that do scare you, like standing up in front of a bunch of people you haven't met, because it helps you grow and it helps you challenge yourselves and helps you uncover things that you might not have known existed in the first place. Because there isn't, at least, I used to think when I was in college and I was in high school that there was some sort of path. You go to medical school, you go to law school, and there are certain paths. And I guess what I've learned along the way, there's not really any path. You have to blaze your own path. There's not a right path, a wrong path, this course or that course. There's only your own path. So you might as well go ahead and lay that path in front of you. I love this quote from Mark Twain, who talks about the 2 most important days in your life, the day that you were born and the day that you find out why. And your experiences at 42, I think, will help you understand the why part. We all know the day we were born, but we don't know the why part. And we tend to take all these different chances on ourselves. And a place like 42, I think, helps accelerate your understanding of the why part, especially as you guys are programmers, so you're used to answering really tough, challenging questions. So the second lesson, I talked about the first one in terms of doing what you love and also getting really good at it. And the second one might be sort of surprising, may sound sort of soft and fuzzy, but it's really true. And it's the lesson of kindness. One of my heroes is the great American poet Maya Angelou. And she has this quote that I think about almost on a daily basis. And she talks about people won't necessarily remember what you said or what they told you, but people will always, always remember how they made you feel. And so while you're at school and while you're learning all these new things, you may forget some of the tools, you may forget some of the languages, you may forget how to do this and that, but you'll never forget how your colleague or how a teacher or how another student made you feel. And it's such an important lesson that we sometimes take for granted. And I think about it a lot in the business world too, especially at Twitter. And I can remember the business partners I've worked with that I thought were fair and that were ethical and that helped us both go to new levels. And I also remember the partners that maybe cheated a little bit along the way. And you remember, and you don't want to work with people that aren't as trustworthy. So it's really important that both in personal life and professional life, that you surround yourselves with others who find the greatness in yourselves, even when you don't really know it's there yourself, because they tend to make you better and stronger and richer not in the monetary way, but richer in sort of the self-development way. So again, I'm super proud to be here. I'm super humbled to be here in front of all of you. Would be happy to answer any questions that you may have about Twitter or maybe my past experience, or would love to learn a little bit about you all as well and some of your goals and how I can be helpful. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie, for your talk. I find it very interesting, and I was very happy to hear about the values, about the importance of having people which share the same values and good values. I think it's very important in life. Do we have some questions?
Hello. So I wanted to know a bit more about your actual job at Twitter. So what does your daily life at Twitter look like?
There's no schedule in a way. So my job has evolved over the past 4 years, and it first started out with saying which markets are going to be important for Twitter, both from a user growth perspective and also from a value growth perspective. Where are places that we can do business and operate as a company, and what places have populations that we want to make sure we reach. And one of our core values is to reach every person on the planet, but you can't necessarily reach every person on the planet at the same exact time. So you have to build a strategy towards that. So over the past couple of years, what we have done is set apart the strategy of where can we have our operations to get closer to our users, that we marked out the first 10 to 15 markets to set up shop. And so spent a lot of time doing that. Now we have about 14 offices outside the U.S., and then what my team does now is help us go deeper in each of those markets, where we work with media partners, with publishers, with sports clubs, with musicians, and making sure that they get the most out of Twitter. We also have colleagues in the sales team that help sell and keep the business running. And then we also work with our product and engineering teams and try to be the champion for our users. So in some markets like France and Spain, a lot of Latin markets are very conversational, and so they tweet a lot. They have a lot to say. And then there are other markets like Germany, which are a little bit more reserved, and they want to listen more than they necessarily tweet. And so making sure that we understand the nuances of each market and then feed that back to our product and engineering team so they can optimize the product accordingly. That was a very long answer, but that's what we do.
Hi. What are the values of Twitter, the key values?
Such a good question. So every company, every organization should have a set of core values. You have a mission statement, but you should also have these core values. And you set aside these core values to help you when to first, centralize your culture a little bit, so make sure you're all rowing in the same direction, believe the same thing, but also that there are going to be many times where you may have disagreement about, do you go this way or that way? And a core value should help you, make a better decision. So we have a number of them that our employees came up with. It wasn't that our CEO said, okay, here are the top 10 core values, you must all memorize them, but something that really happened the ground up. So some of them are like reach every person on the planet, build a business in a way that makes us proud. Now I'm a little nervous. Can I remember all of them? There are 10. Ship it, be rigorous, get it right. And passion and personality matter. So things that we look for as we hire people, as we do business, and as we grow the business. I gave you about 5. I'll think of the other 5.
I had another question here.
Thank you. You talk about self-development. I wanted to know if you are following a training or something like coaching or anything like that, and if it's quite important in this field. And,
Yeah, we have our HR team has a learning and development group, and they have a sort of centralized resource that can help us do different things. So how to identify talent, how to grow that talent, how to optimize and scale. And so we do have that resource in place. In fact, later today, I was just telling Isabel that I have an all hands with my leadership team, and we're bringing in an executive coach to talk to us about that type of self-development and that type of talent. We also have, for many employees, different types of skill-building exercises, public speaking, or if you need any extra help on coding that you just want to go a little bit deeper in, we do have that available as well. And almost like 42, I'm not super familiar with it as much, but there's also a lot of different coding classes where people will teach one another. You want to get a little bit more advanced in PHP, you want to do a little bit more with Scala, you want to do a little bit more with C++, and and fine-tune some of those skills, you can do that as well. So it's almost like a university style where you have lots of opportunities to learn.
And do you think that's very important or not to be following by a trainer in each way of working, like concentration, everything like that?
Yeah, definitely. I think every organization needs to always learn. Once you stop learning, you kind of you can die. And so it's important that I think both at universities but also at businesses have sort of a learning culture, so you're constantly evolving and constantly staying on top of new trends. Are you all on Twitter? I was told this is, who's not? Who do I need to have a conversation with? Okay. Everyone else can leave. You all stay.
Hi. Hi, you've talked about your first fabulous job and the current fabulous job, but could you elaborate more on your, what happened in between?
Sure. I felt like my career was a process of elimination. After my, really lovely experience with the chicken nuggets, I went on thinking, I came back from Paris and from Jerusalem thinking, whatever I did, I wanted a job that was global in nature because I wanted the opportunity to travel and to keep learning. And I thought, well, I want to go work in relief efforts. I want to do something in nonprofit. And I started to work in nonprofit, and I liked it, but I just didn't. I realized it wasn't for me. I realized it wasn't the right path for me. And so then I went into government. I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to work in government, and I want to do international government affairs kind of stuff. And I did that for a year, and I realized, oh, no, this isn't it either. And I was only 25. I was like, oh, my God, my career is over. I'm never going to find a job that I love. And I went to graduate school. And afterwards, I ended up getting a job in finance. And Isabel will probably laugh. But I suffered through it, and thinking, okay,
I have a future possibly.
yeah. And I thought, well, okay, maybe if I do this, I'll get at least some really hard, tangible skills. And I didn't love it either, but I felt like, okay, at least I had some skills. But I think I had my pivot point when I started thinking about, well, I need something I'm really proud of. I need something I can get really passionate about. And it turned out that I started looking on Yahoo, just doing the search, and I thought, oh, Yahoo, that would be a great place to work. And this was in the late 90s. Wouldn't it be fun to work at a place like Yahoo that's just reinventing so many different things across news and finance and music, and ended up somehow convincing somebody there to give me a chance. And that's when I realized, oh my God, you can have those three things. You can, work with people you love. You can build something that you're really proud of, and build something that you could use every day. So once I got on that path, it all worked out. I mean, not that it's over, and not that everything works out, and things are still bumpy along the road, but it's the path that I really like.
Regarding the Twitter worldwide development, you talked a lot about Europe, but is Twitter willing to develop emerging markets such as India, China, or Middle East Africa?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have most of our engineers are in San Francisco, some in New York, and then some in London, and some in Tokyo. And it is really important for us to reach all these people and all these users. And Twitter, while it's used differently in different markets, it's also accessible in different ways in different markets. So feature phones offer a very different kind of service than if you're on a smartphone in a big city. So it's important to us and to our engineers and product managers are trying to make sure that Twitter remains fast and easy to use in all of those markets. Some of our top markets are India, Indonesia, Brazil, who have very different demographics, very different types of connections than here in France or the U.S. Frankly. So we do a lot of different types of efforts. We have an emerging markets team that tries to make sure that we do a good job there. We also have a really strong business development team that makes sure that you can use Twitter in lots of different ways and that it's free. So we strike deals with carriers. I think we have relationships with over 100 carriers around the world, from Afghanistan to Yemen, where you can actually send and receive tweets for free by just a text message. So we do lots of different things, either on the business development side or the product side or the engineering side, to help reach emerging markets.
Thank you for coming. How has your perspectives evolved since you've been working at Twitter? Maybe around the kindness, is it something that has developed, or somewhere else? What has changed?
So Twitter's definitely a kind place. It's also a really funny place, a quirky place, which is one of the reasons why I really liked it. A lot of that comes from both the founders, but our CEO, he was a former stand-up comic. So when we get together on almost a weekly basis, you feel like you're at a comedy show sometimes. So it definitely has a lot of that. But the kindness part, I think, is just something that I've seen over time. So, for example, starting, the real part of my career that started was in a bank, where it just wasn't kind. It wasn't fun going into work most days, to be honest. And then when I moved to Yahoo and going more on the technology route, because in essence technology is a collaborative process, you have to work together. And one of 6 core value at Twitter is communicate fearlessly to build trust. And it's something, that kind of openness and that trust, it also helps breed kindness, because so much is out in the open and you have to work together. So Twitter definitely is reflective of that and those values. And I consider so many of my colleagues some of my closest friends, so that makes it fun too. Except for Bart in the office, who makes fun of my French.
So I wanted to ask a more human question. Of course, you didn't find the job you were dreaming of on your very first attempt. So what do you say to yourself at those moments when, there's a chance I might fail. What is going to happen to me if I fail? What do you say to yourself at those moments to keep going and to try and convince yourself that this is a good idea?
Yeah, I think success is much less about how many times you win, but how often that you fall down and you get back up, right? And it hurts. It hurts to get knocked down, and it hurts to fail. But when you get back up and you get back in, you're way stronger for that. So some people are lucky and they nail it on the first try. And some people may take 10, 20, 30 years. But you all are in this very unique and wonderful situation that, again, you speak so many languages. You're learning programming, which is one of the most sought-after careers in the world. You have Xavier behind you. You're going to have this on your resume. You're in the best city in the world. So you have everything going for you. So I'm not too worried about the future for you all and failure. It's not an option.
what do you think about Twitter being blocked by government in some country like Syria? Or do you think it doesn't help the people there, but how can Twitter can affect the war or things like that?
Yeah, that's a tough question. So, to the other question too about working, in emerging markets, Twitter's blocked in a number of countries. So China, the government has blocked us. So we're just not able to compete, and it's very difficult for us to be able to offer service. However, information's like water, and it finds a way of coming out. And so we still have a number of users in China, in North Korea, not a lot, in Syria and in dangerous places that are still able to access the service and to be able to connect with the world and to access the truth, where in many of these places that it's being suppressed. In fact, Ai Weiwei, the Chinese activist and artist, he's very active on Twitter, and he talks about how Twitter is his city. Where he's able to have, it's like a public town square where he's able to have this discourse out in the public. And he does this despite a lot of the challenges. I mean, he's under house arrest and the government watches his every move, but he still has the courage to connect and to be able to broadcast his thoughts and to listen to what the world is saying. There have been times too, for example, Egypt during their revolutions and their changes where the government had shut down the internet and shut down Twitter. And we had actually at that time worked with Google to create a service called Speak to Tweet. And Google had acquired a service called Say Now. And it allowed anyone to call any phone number in the world, or not any phone number in the world, but we had like 5 or 10 phone numbers in different places. And you could leave a message and it would be automatically tweeted. And it wasn't used millions of times. It didn't become the next Snapchat or anything like that, but it was just a reflection of, information will get out. You get a bunch of brilliant programmers together that have a bold, courageous idea, and content will ensue. And one of our founders, Bistone, had this great expression that Twitter isn't a triumph of technology, but it's a triumph of humanity, and how people, no matter where you are, no matter what language you speak, no matter what kind of phone you have, that you're able to connect.
What do you think about France as an international manager?
I love France as an international manager. A lot of vacations, a little bit more than I'm used to, which is fine.
We're not joking.
Yeah. No, I personally love it. I think it's been a great market for us. It's really interesting. To be totally candid, it is a more difficult language. Well, it's a difficult language and a difficult market to do business with. Tax laws are a little bit higher and a little bit more complicated. It's not as conducive to entrepreneurism, despite it being a French word, than other markets. But it's still been a great experience for us. The market, our partners have been amazing. One of the things that I've loved about it is that it's creative, it's innovative. We see a lot of innovation by the TV partners, especially. So TF1, Canal Plus, they all have been very receptive, very much leaning into the opportunities of what is possible. So that's been really fun. And even the sports clubs, Équipe de France, they're doing amazing things. Roland Garros and Tour de France, they're all really eager to find new and creative solutions to be able to reach their fans and audiences. So despite some of sort of the structural challenges, I think that there are huge opportunities here, which is one of the reasons why I moved here with my family. And great food.
Hello, you mentioned that very few women are studying coding and programming. Have you an idea why they are more or less reluctant and how to solve it?
Yeah, I think, there are a lot of reasons why, and there are people far more educated than me on it, but part of it is there's a little bit of a bias that goes down even to the elementary age where a lot of girls, I have 2 girls and a boy, and I see my own girls, despite me trying to encourage them along the path, and but they just, they feel like, well, I'm the only girl in the class, I feel uncomfortable, I don't want to do this, and it's all boys in there, and so it's really hard to fix that ratio. But I think without more and more opportunity, opportunities like 42 and different. There's one program called Coder Dojo that's in Paris as well, and it's all around the world now, started by a bunch of Irish programmers. It's a great opportunity for, allowing that exposure. But I see that even today in, our executive teams. Oh, thank you. There are fewer women in executive posts. There are fewer women in board roles in technology. So it's kind of a structural problem that we need to address early on. It's not going to work itself out in the next couple of years. It's, unfortunately, maybe 5-10 years away.
Building on that question, I actually had one for you. As a woman, and that's also one of the reasons why we're having these talks, you've faced certain challenges that you may have faced as a man as well. But what kind of advice would you have for these students, men and women, on how to overcome those certain challenges that gender may cause?
That's such a hard question. I can't believe you asked me that.
Okay, give me.
No,
sorry.
No,
give one example.
Yeah, I mean, one is I think one of the biggest challenges, at least for me, speaking for myself, is being a mother, having 3 children and wanting to work really, really hard. And I love my job, but I love my children too. And it's always finding that balance, and that balancing act in life. No matter if you have no kids and 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids, 4 kids, doesn't matter. Balancing is really hard. And it's, if you're a working parent, it's on it. Both parents have to participate, right? So it's both the man and the woman, both the husband and the wife, and the dad and the mom, both having to.
He doesn't seem concerned right now. That's my husband.
Okay, so you need to do way more. No, I see where this is going.
That's bad excuse.
But it is, everyone has to help out, and it is a 50-50 scenario, and that's a challenge I face all the time, and I'm very fortunate that my husband's been super supportive and super helpful, but that's probably the biggest challenge I see. Quickly switch to another subject.
Yes.
Hi, I have 2 questions. First of all, we thank you to be here with us. I think we all hope that you will come back. My question is in terms of market and consumer and uses of the smartphones and uses of social network. What's the rank of France in Europe? Are we at the top, or there is like Britain or Germany? And my second question is, recently we spoke a lot about Alibaba. And now we have seen that it's a really big company. They have opened a platform in US. And so, in what extent would it be a problem if Weibo? So I know that that's the equivalent of Twitter in China. So, in what extent would it be a problem if it come in America and US, or if it will target the Europe market?
Yeah, so with the first question, so France is one of our most important markets. It's a really strategic market for us. A lot of great user growth, a lot of great innovations, a lot of opportunities for us. The second question, there's going to be tons of competition all the time. And today's competition may grow fiercer or may fizzle out. You never know. We don't spend a lot of time thinking or looking sideways. What is Facebook doing, and what is Google doing, and what if Weibo does that? Because running a business is almost like driving a car. You need to keep going forward, and there are a lot of curves in the roads, and there are going to be a lot of distractions. And the second that you start looking in the rear view mirror and the side view mirror, looking at what everyone else is doing, that's when you crash, right? So it's really important that you keep your eyes on the road and keep thinking about what is the great value that we can deliver? What are the big pain points that we can help solve? How can we make this faster? How can we make this easier? How can we make this fresher? So we spend far more time thinking about that than what everybody else is doing.
Okay, thank you very much.
Some more question? Yes, okay.
Is Twitter contributing in any way in an education program for children or teenagers or computer science like us?
Yeah, actually, yes. So one of the first organizations that we actually gave money to as a sort of not investment, but it's an investment. It's called Girls Who Code. and it's in New York to help accelerate the growth of women and girls in computer science. So we gave them a foundational grant, and we also have our CTO, Adam Messenger, who's on the board of Girls Who Code. And so we do things like that to help correct the ratio. Again, it's going to take a lot of time. It's sort of institutional as a challenge, but we do things like that. We also have a number of different local community efforts to help be part of our community. In fact, we have something called Friday for Good, where I don't know the cadence exactly now. It might be once a quarter or a couple times a quarter, where people in offices around the world will try to do something good for the local community. So our team in Paris, we did something with an AIDS charity a couple weeks ago, whereas other ones worked in schools. And so there are a number of different ways that we try to contribute locally and globally.
Thank you.
I was actually thinking about the question I asked you.
Oh no,
no, because
we're switching subjects.
Because I was trying to figure out what I would have answered. So I was thinking back of my career, and I'm not at all from the same world as you. I'm from finance, but I think what the kind of challenge that I was facing very early on is the difference that networking within a workplace is not that easy, and I always felt that men, at the beginning at least, had a little bit of an easier way to do it. They would go out and have drinks. They would go out and party. They would invite each other to their houses. They would be able to go even on vacation together, things like that. And I felt like a woman in finance, I was definitely part of a minority, and I didn't have that same access. So I was trying to figure out, first of all, is that similar in tech? And how I overcame it, I think one of the first things I did was try to ignore it by being very good at what I was doing. So I think it's very important that whatever you choose, and Katie was touching upon that early on, is that whatever you find that you love, you should get really good at, because some of these barriers will fall already at that stage. And then what I was also doing is networking for myself by trying to surround myself with great women, and also some that were maybe more senior. And I'm actually still doing it now in Paris with Katie. By networking with a whole group of people that are either in my industry or not, to try to find a way to find support and to push myself further and to challenge myself. So that's kind of what I think I would have said, but I wasn't sure whether that's the same thing in your industry and whether that's representative or not.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that you kind of touch on, the beauty of technology in my mind is that it's so meritocratic. It doesn't matter where you've been, doesn't matter what you look like, it doesn't matter what gender you are. Is your code clean? Can you do that? And so it's so meritocratic. And having moved from New York in finance to California in technology, even though it's the same country, it was radically different culture. Coming from the East Coast, I felt that so much of my career was based on where I came from. What school did you go to? Where are you from? And things like that. And where in California, I felt, in moving to Yahoo and then Google and now Twitter, people ask less about where are you from, but what do you dream of? What's next? And I think that's something that, again, you all are in a perfect position in the world of technology to build those dreams. Like, you can literally build them. You can build those ideas. You can test it. You can spread it. You can scale it. And that's something that's so unique and so special that I think it allows anybody with that edge and not to feel as much of a minority, no matter if, man or woman, what age you are, what your abilities or disabilities are, that you can scale.
I think networking is key. You really have to start now. You have a great group of people who are like-minded, who are in the same process of building your own dreams, and networking is really the focus that you should start with right now.
I think a lot of ways are possible. I think it's not because you start the first thing that it will work, but you will perhaps have success on the next time, and you will progress. You will progress on after a moment. If you really are focused on an objective, you can make things work. One point is, as I say earlier last time, a lot of work. I think you can say everything is possible. You can come from one industry to the next one. You can go from one country to the next one, and you can restart again. If you have a good network, and this would be the case, it's what we are now starting to build together now here. And second, if you take the work or the attention to success in it, but you have to think that things are possible for you. I think that's a very important point. As you can see, Katie, she started selling nuggets, now she's at Twitter, and perhaps she will do something wonderful after that. I think it's not a finished road. I think it's just one step on after she will have to make her next step, I think. Someone want to have the micro? Last question? I have one.
We've seen company like Google buying other company developing Google cars. We've seen Facebook buying Oculus Rift. What do you think of the future of Twitter? Can Twitter develop in a more in another way, like making hardware or things like this? What do you think about that?
I can't tell you. I mean, I think we're always going to, I mean, all these companies do two things, right? You either build it or buy it. And so for us, we're going to keep building different ideas of how to go faster and make Twitter easier to use and easier to find things. And we have about 250 million active users around the world and process 1 billion tweets every couple of days. And so that's just a lot of content to parse. So how can we help make that easier and more visual? And also one of the investments we've made is around Twitter and television. So Twitter's become this ultimate complement to television. As you're watching whatever show it is, you can have a conversation about it. In some cases, you influence the outcome of the show. So we'll continue to invest in things like that. And then there will be different innovations that we'll see on the outside that will think, oh, wow, that would be great. And here's how it could plug into Twitter and we'll have to buy it. And that happens, and that's great. And it allows, with M&A strategies in particular, it helps you keep your own product and business fresh and bringing new ideas and bringing new entrepreneurs into the business to help make it stay alive and relevant and move fast. So lots of different ideas. So if you have any great ideas, go ahead and send me an email, or you can tweet me, KDS.
Thank you.
Thank you. Merci.
Yeah. Thank you, Katie.